Welcome to our very first lesson in the free data analyst course. In this lesson, we are going to understand what is a database, what is SQL, how to install MySQL on your computer, and how to write your very first SQL queries. Let's go. So what is a database? A database is a place where your data stays. So imagine John wants to learn about SQL. So John goes to YouTube and searches for SQL. In order to help John and show the relevant videos, YouTube would use a database of all the videos and other related information so that it could show him all the videos about SQL. And we could imagine all the relevant information about videos is kept in a place like this. We could think of this as videos, and it has all the details about the videos. When John asks, show me the videos about SQL, YouTube is going to go through this and then it can say, you know what, video number 2, 7 and 12 are about SQL. So I'm going to show them to John. In order to facilitate this process, internally, YouTube must be using some sort of a database because it has to organize the data. So that is what a database does. It lets you manage, structure, store, and retrieve information that is helpful to solve business problems. So if you work or if you are planning to work in the data analysis space, then it is really important to understand how to use databases, how to communicate with databases, and how to work with databases. So that's what we are going to do in this lesson. Get familiar with the technology of databases and then build on that knowledge. So if that is a database, then what is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it is the language that the databases speak. So in order to access the information that is inside the database, we normally use SQL. And within SQL, there are 4 main kind of operations that you can do. These are also known as CRUD operations. It stands for C is for create, R is for read, U is for update, and D is for delete. Normally, when you think about data, these are the 4 kind of things that you can do on top of the data. You can create the data, you can read the data, you can update the data, and you can delete the data. But when it comes to data analysis profession or any of the adjacent professions in the data analysis space, a majority of the time, you would be just reading the data. Your job usually involves looking at all the information and data that is available and then providing advice, guidance, or trends or insights about the data. So that is why when it comes to data analytics and when it comes to learning SQL, you are learning a subset of SQL that is relevant for your job. So in this video and the subsequent videos, we are going to explore more about this read aspect and get really comfortable with that so that you can answer business questions using your data and SQL. Before we learn more about SQL, it's a good idea to understand some of the key terminology in the world of databases. So let's take a closer look at a database by creating a database for a fictional business. Imagine you want to run a DVD rental business back in early 2000s. Of course, nowadays, nobody rents a DVD because of all the goodness that we have through streaming and online platforms. But back in 2000s, that is how you normally watch a movie or a TV series. So let's say in order for you to run this DVD rental business, you would need obviously to maintain the data and keep track of everything. And we could think of creating a DVD database for this. What could go into this? So for example, there has to be something that maintains all the information about DVDs. And we could think of that as this little circle here. And we can call this as DVDs. This circle is going to contain all the information about the DVDs. What is the title of the DVD? Who are the actors? What is the value of that DVD? How much are we going to charge per day, etc., etc. But that's not enough. In order to run the business, these DVDs are not gonna sit there on the shelves. They have to be rented to customers. So you also need information about customers. So we could imagine another circle that holds the customer information. For example, what is the name of the customer, email address, phone number, physical address, and other stuff that is relevant to operate the business. But these two tables just contain the information. What happens when a customer actually walks in and rents a DVD? So let's say on 1st of Jan 2004, Gary walks in and rents Mission Impossible 2 movie. Now we need to record this information somewhere so that we can keep track of what is happening in the business and then know that, oh, MI2 is out, and then when it is returned, again, we can keep track of it, like what was the return date and whether Gary has paid the money or not. And to keep track of all of this, we might want to maintain another circle, and we can call this as rental. And this is where we are going to keep track of all the rentals that are happening in the business. We could also imagine that the rental circle is somehow connected to the customer circle and the DVD circle. Rather than calling these circles, there is a technical name for these. These are called tables. Each table, customer table here, holds the information about the customers. DVDs table holds the information about DVDs, and rental table holds the information about all the transactions that are happening. So a simple DVD business, we could imagine kind of having all of these tables and their connections together. When you combine all of this together, we call that nothing but a database. And a database is usually maintained by various kinds of softwares. So normally these are called DBMS, database management software, and there are many popular providers out there. The most popular ones are SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and nowadays many cloud providers. If you are running a really small business like a one-man DVD rental business that just operates out of one shop, you could even run the database management software using something like MS Access. No matter what software you're using, they all will speak the same language, which is the SQL. Just as English language has some dialects, each software would speak kind of like a version of SQL with some extra keywords and extra slang items there. But in general, the language is same across all of them. So when we are learning SQL further on in this video, I am going to use MySQL to demonstrate the concepts. But whatever you are learning, you can apply the same ideas in Oracle, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, or even in MS Access. And to facilitate with all of this and help you understand how to use SQL, we are going to use MySQL along with a sample database. This sample database is coincidentally about a DVD rental business, and it comes packaged with MySQL. It is called Sakila. So we are going to install MySQL next and install this sample database and then use that to build our SQL knowledge. Let's take a look at that. To begin, go to mysql.com and click on downloads. There is a lot of software that is available here, and most of it is for money. But if you go down here, you will see MySQL Community GPL downloads. So click on that link and that will take you to MySQL downloads. This page has a lot of options, but essentially you're looking for MySQL installer for Windows. If you're running a different operating system, you can also use the community server here and select the operating system that you're using. So let's go here and grab the second file, which is an MSI installer, and download that. Just click on the download link. Again, MySQL website may ask you to set up a login account before you download, but you can simply say, no thanks, just start my download. That's going to start the download process for you. Let's go through the installation now. During the installation process, make sure you selected the workbench as well as sample and example options. These are essential if you want to follow along for the rest of this tutorial. Follow through the screens and complete the installation. As I have already installed MySQL on computer, the screen for me shows update SQL, but if you're installing it for the first time, it will say install. Keep in mind that during the installation, MySQL will also ask you to set a password for the root user. This is the main user of the database server, and make a note of this password that you're giving. I suggest writing it down on a piece of paper so you can refer to it later when you are entering into MySQL. If you have installed MySQL for Windows using this installer option, the 8.037 version, then it also comes with a software called MySQL Workbench. This is a visual software through which we can connect to the database and look at all the data, etc. So when you open the Workbench, you're going to see a MySQL instance available here. This is called local instance because the server is running on my computer. So I'm going to run this. Before we can actually use it, we need to start the MySQL service. By default, it will start every time your computer begins. But you can also go to services on your Windows and search for MySQL. So here MySQL 8.0, and you can see that this is running. If it is not running for you or if it's not saying anything there, you can double click on this and start the service using this button. You can keep a note here that I have set the startup type to manual. By default, it will be automatic or automatic delayed start, which means every time you start your computer, this service is going to run. So now that the server is running, I can double click on this local instance to get into MySQL that is running on my computer. It's going to reopen the previous set of windows that I have got going. You can see that I was using some queries, etc. But I'm just going to close everything and let's take a look at the schemas that are available. Schemas is another word to indicate databases. So you can see here I have got lots of databases available, but the main one that we're going to use is the Sakila one. You can double click on it to use that database in case something else is selected. Keep in mind that this won't be available if you have not installed the sample datasets that come with MySQL. So during the installation process, you must select this. If you have not selected, you can go back to the installer and add this as an option now. So just double click on it so that you can use this database. You can expand it and you can see all the tables, views, and stored procedures and functions that are available in this. Let's take a look at the tables. All of these tables are available in the Sakila database. Like I said, this is a DVD rental business, a fictional business that is made up for the sake of exploring and using MySQL. You can read more about the Sakila sample database from the MySQL website here. I'll include a link for this in the video description as well as on the web page for this free data analyst course. So we are going to use this particular database to kind of understand SQL. Before you can actually use SQL and understand, it is a good idea to understand the data itself. So for example, if I look at the structure of the Sakila database, you can see this is how all of these tables are linked. This is what I would call a medium complexity database because there is a lot of tables and a lot of connections. A simple way to isolate all of this complexity is if you're looking at all of this, essentially we have got a customer table and a rental table. This is what a customer is renting, and what they are renting is the inventory. Inventory is nothing but your DVDs. So here, if you isolate just these three tables, customer, inventory, and rental, you can kind of see the miniature structure of the DVD business that we talked earlier. But as this is a fairly complex business, there are many other tables that are used to maintain this information. So for example, a customer belongs to a store. So you have got multiple stores and certain customers go to certain stores. That's why there is a connection between customer and store. Likewise, a customer will make a payment. So there is a payment table. A staff deals with the payment. That's why there is a staff table and the staff work in store. So all these connections indicate how data concepts are connecting with each other. You can also see this structure inside MySQL directly. I'll talk more about that in my next video, which talks about advanced SQL concepts. But for now, let's take a look at the data. We have got customers here. I want to see who our customers are. You can select the customer table, right click, and then say select rows limit 500. This is gonna write a SQL query for you inside the workbench and then show you first 500 customers. As this is a big business, there might be many more customers than that. So it's a good idea to just see the first 500 to get a glimpse of this. So here we can see customer ID, store ID, their name, first name, last name, email address, and the address ID. We don't know where they live. We have got an ID number. And if you remember this diagram here, customer has an address table linkage, and we can find out the address of the customer by kind of going to the address table and looking up for address 5, which is for customer number 1. You might be thinking, oh, that seems dumb. Why can't we maintain the address here? Now imagine you have got 2 customers, both husband and wife, going to the store. Then what happens is, for both of them, you would maintain the address record, which would be same, assuming they live in the same address. And that will create what we call as redundancy, same information repeated multiple times. So to avoid that, you try to create these kind of separate tables for individual concepts and link them up, so that if you have 3 customers all living at one address, then you just maintain address information once and link it to 3 customers through IDs. So now that we have seen the customers, let's take a look at all the films that are available in our rental business. You can again right click on this film table and then say select rows limit 500, and that's going to write one more query from the database sakila.film. And we can see all of these information here. Let's take a closer look at this query itself. This is what SQL looks like. SQL uses plain English, and what we are saying here is select star from sakila.film. So let's go from back to front. This is the name of the table. The table name is film, and it belongs to the database Sakila. So that's why we say sakila.film. You can also directly say film, assuming that is the current database that we are using. You can see it is bolded here, Sakila. That means that is the database that we are using. And run this query. You can use this lightning bolt button here, and it will give you the same result. But it's a good idea to prefix with the database name, or make sure that you're using the database. So now that is the table name, from is obvious. What it's saying is, I want the data from that table. And what do I want? I want to see all the columns. So that's where the star comes in. Star tells SQL engine, the database server behind scenes, that you want to look at all the columns. And select is the operation that we are doing. We are selecting the data. Just as you can select, you can also insert, update, delete, modify, etc. So there are separate words. Normally, as a data analyst, you would be using select statement 99% of the time. I can't even remember the last time I had to use anything other than select when I'm working as a data analyst. So let's say you want to select information from film, but you don't want to see everything. You want to just see the title and the release year. What you can do is you can take out the star and then write the words title, release underscore year, and run this query again, and you just see only those 2 columns. Academy Dinosaur, release year 2006. Let's say I want to see all this information, but I'm only interested in the films that have the word love in them, that begin with the word love. So this is where, instead of using the semicolon to indicate that you have done your job, you add a new line, and then in this line you can use a special word called where, and then title, because that's what we are looking for, title, and it should begin with the word love. So we can use the special keyword like to do this, like, and then within single quotes you can say love. After love there can be anything. So to indicate anything you can say percentage. And when you run this query, you will see all the movies that begin with the word love. So you can say Love Suicides, Lovely Jingle, Lover Truman, Love Boy Attacks. Let's see all the movies that begin with the word the. I'm thinking this is going to be a big list. Oh no, there is only one movie like that. Theory Mermaid. So you can use this kind of operation, where operation, to filter down the list of items that are returned through the select query up there. So think of this like a filtering of your data if you've used Excel or any other tool for that matter. Let's say you are doing some analysis on this film information. So you want to look at title, release year, and I want to also see length. And we can see how long the movie is in minutes. And for our analysis purpose, I want to see the longest films up top. We can also use the special word order by. This is use it to sort the data, and then we can say the field that we want to order, length. And if you just don't say anything after this and run it, you're going to get the movies that are shortest length up top. But as we are interested in seeing the longest movies up top, you need to specify in a specific operation of ordering, that is descending order. So we say order by length descending, DESC, and run this query, and you will see the longest movies up top. Chicago North, Control Anthem, Darn Forrester, etc. are 185 minutes long, so more than 3 hours there. Let's say this is your first day of data analyst at Sakila Corporation, and your boss asks you, can you show me all the rentals that we did in the last week? So for this, we need to go into the rental table. Let's just take a look at this, select rows limit 500. This is how the rental information looks like. We have got rental date and return date and last update date. Now, even though we are saying you just started in this corporation, all this data is actually from 2005. So here we have got 2005, 5/24, May 24th, and return date is May 26th. And this keeps going on. What I want to do is I want to see when is the latest rental date. So I'm going to sort this order by rental date DESC. So the latest rental that we have is 2006 of February 14th on Valentine's Day. And this data is up to that point. So we could imagine when I say I want to see all the latest rentals, we are talking about the point in time of February 14th, 2006. So as we are interested in seeing the latest rentals, what we want to do is we want to filter this rental date for 1 week prior to this date. So here we can say where rental underscore date between, and that's a special operation that you could use to indicate two boundaries, and our starting point is 7th of February. Let's go all the way up to start of February, 2006, 02, 01, and 2006, 02, 14. Let's run this. I was thinking we are going to get all the records of February 2006, but unfortunately there is no information and we get null record. Null is a way of databases to say there is nothing there. But we just saw that there is information there. In fact, if I cut this and run the query, we can see that we do have rentals all the way in February 2006. So what's going on here? What's going on is the rental date here is not just a date, it is actually a date and time value. This is why it's not able to filter. There are two ways to solve this problem. The first way is we can give the input between condition as a date and time. So you can say 000000, that means 1st of February 2006 midnight, and then we can also say the end point as 23:59:59, or we can go up to 15 and then say this as 0. For now, we'll just do it like this and then see what happens. Now we get the information of all the rentals that happened in that period. The second method is, rather than doing this entire time part, we can just leave that out and take the rental date and convert that into just the date portion. So this is where we can use a function like date of that. And what that does is it will take this and turn that into just the date. Let's take a look at that. Again, we'll get the same kind of result set. I hope that has given you some understanding of what SQL is and what databases are. In our next video of this free data analyst course, we are going to look at some advanced concept of SQL and how to use SQL for doing data analysis work. I'll catch you in that one. Stay awesome until then. Bye-bye.